Hey everybody, welcome back to Positively Fishing. Today I'm here with Nick and we are in my backyard cleaning up the gold from our last 2 trips to the creek. I really hope we got a lot. Let's see how we did. Stay tuned. Alright, this is all of our gold concentrates from our trip last year that we didn't have time to run. I think this actually might be 2 trips, right?
2 trips,
Was this 2 trips?
Yep.
So this is everything we had from that. And you can see it's all the way from last year. So it is completely dry. So we could probably dry classify this, but we're gonna wet classify this down. Because all these little pebbles and things like that, we don't need that. There's no gold that's that big. So we want to take this down even another notch. So that's what we're gonna use this for. This is just a basic kitchen strainer, and I've got it in a little bucket of water. And I don't need the spoon actually. And I'm just gonna take a little bit, I'm gonna dump it in here. And all I'm gonna do is shake it around. And what I'm trying to do is get all the fine material, including the gold, to drop down through that screen and keep the bigger stuff out. Now we will go through these little bigger rocks, but we'll go through those separately. We won't run those through the sluice. So I got that cleaned up. That goes in this pan. And then we're just going to repeat this process until we get all of this run through here. So we're going to keep going with this, and we will check back in with you after all this is all classified out. Alright, so we just finished classifying this out one last time, and this is what we got. We've got our bigs over here. This is anything bigger than the kitchen strainer, and then we will pan that out in a little bit. And then in this is everything smaller. The water's a little bit dirty, but everything in here is smaller than that kitchen strainer. And this is where the gold's gonna be. There might be a tiny bit left in that, but this is where most of it's gonna be. So I'm gonna take this over to my little VDR cleanup sluice and start feeding it. So the first thing I did with this cleanup sluice is I have it set at the angle I want. It's about 10 or 11 degrees. And then I have it emptying off at the end into a bucket. That way I'm capturing all my tailings. That serves 2 purposes. First off, it keeps them out of my pump, so I won't jam up my pump with sand. And second off, I can run through them again if I get bored one day. So now I'm just gonna take spoonfuls at a time, put them in here, and let the sluice do its job. So here we go, first scoop. I'm not gonna shadow right now. Yeah. All right. And right now it seems like it's running pretty good. You want these riffles up here to be maybe half full, and you can see these top riffles up here. These are already filling up with black sand. There is a lot of black sand in this material, and then as you go down, it's still collecting some of the blonde sand. So that means I'm collecting any gold that's going through here. I'm going to collect, and I can actually see a little gold starting to accumulate. It's going to be hard to see on that camera, but right up here, there's quite a bit of gold right there. We'll see if we can get a better look at that, but I'm going to keep feeding this for a little bit, so we'll see how we do. Stay tuned. Well, it's looking pretty good so far. We just ran that first bit, and see if we can get the focus a little bit. And that's what we got in there so far. Keep going down a little bit, and then once we get down to the riffles, you can just see how packed they are with black sand. So that's still quite a bit of black sand in there, but there is quite a bit of gold, so that's exciting. Alright, so we just finished running that through, and I was gonna maybe do both of our containers of concentrate, but after looking at the sluice, and why don't you just pan in and take a quick look. All the way down here is just packed with black sand. So I think it's probably best if we clean this out. So I'm going to turn off the pump and disconnect this water hose right here. And then I'm going to take the sluice and just carefully tip it into this pan right here. And then I've got just my regular garden hose. I could use a squirt bottle, but my squirt bottle just isn't really working very well. So I'm just going to very gently wash this material down into the pan. Doesn't take long at all. And this cleans out pretty well. Now if we take a look at that, that's pretty well cleaned out. I don't see any gold in there. So we will set this, put that back there. And then this is what we are left with. And if I just sat here and tried to pan this out, this would take forever because it's almost all black sand. But what I do want to do is I want to shake it up a little bit, and I'm curious. I just want to take a peek. So give it a little shake, and then I'm just going to quick give it a little wash back. See if we can see some gold.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. All along here.
Get that glare.
See if I can tap some of it up. So that's just after a quick shake. There's that gold. So the next step is pretty tedious, and it's the most time consuming of this whole process, is just carefully panning and removing all the black sand from this material. But we're not going to do that quite yet.
We've got what? How many more containers run through here?
We got one more.
One more?
One more, but it's a little bit bigger than the last one. So we're going to run that other container through, and then we'll start the tedious process of panning through all this stuff.
Stay tuned.
Well, here's our second container of concentrates. This one is a little bit bigger than the last one, and I tell you what, it might not look like it, but this thing is heavy. There's a lot of heavy material in here. One of the heavy things that we find down in this particular creek is black sand. And if you look closely at the outside of this, you can kind of see that black sand sort of banding with the blonde sand. And the blonde sand's pretty light. The black sand is pretty heavy. But just note where we are right here. Kind of right to the top of that little indentation. That's where this container is right now. And then we're going to take a look at it at the end, because through this whole process, what we are trying to do is we are trying to start out with shovelfuls and then take out the big rocks and then run it through my river sluice. And then we bring it home and then we run it through this small kitchen strainer and take out the small rocks. And through this whole process, all we're doing is removing all of the larger things that aren't gold. So we're removing everything that's light and everything that's big, until we end up with a small container, which we'll look at when we're done running this, of concentrated material that has 95% of the gold in it. We might lose a little bit, but I'm pretty confident we got most of it. So we're going to take this, we're going to run it through the strainer just like before. We're going to pan through the big stuff. We're going to run the small stuff through the sluice. Then we'll start the tedious process of panning through all that black sand. We're going to get after it. Alright, we just finished running all that through the sluice. We cleaned it out, and this is what's left. Just this mostly black sand mixed in with the gold. And there's always a little bit of other stuff that gets through too, but that's mostly black sand mixed with gold. And if you remember, when we started, we were right up to this line right here. And now we're all the way down here. So this container was about half full when we brought it home from the creek. And now it's just barely covering the bottom. So this is maybe 2 tablespoons worth of material, and it was, does it have measures on here? Almost about 2 cups before, 2 cups down to 2 tablespoons. So that's a really efficient way, using the cleanup sluice is a really efficient way to get
All the rest is in there.
to get through a little bit more of it. And this bucket right here, this bucket has all of the tailings. So in here, everything that we ran through the sluice today is right here. So when this red bucket gets about half full, I just take a day out here and run it all the way through and see if we missed anything. Last time I did it, we found a little bit, but really not much, so it does a really nice job catching all the gold. So we're gonna get it set up and do a little panning and get this down to just gold.
Also, please remember to like and subscribe. It really helps out Paul. It doesn't help me at all, but it helps him out.
It does.
That guy over there. So hit the subscribe button. It's gonna be somewhere around here. He'll figure it out later.
What's below?
Stay tuned.
So before we get to panning that other stuff out, this is all the big material. This is everything that didn't fit through the kitchen strainer. So bigger rocks. And there's sometimes some cool things in here. There we can find garnets and things like that. And an interesting thing is a lot of this material in here, this is just a little magnet, a lot of this material in here is magnetic. So if I go through here and run this through, there's quite a bit of magnetic material. What's the word for that?
Ferrous.
Gold is non-ferrous, so gold is not magnetic. So actually I can even go through this and see if any of this black sand is magnetic. I think that's a yes. And there are ways that you can remove a lot of this magnetic material. The problem is the gold will stick to it. So in many ways you're better off just panning it out, even though you could use the magnet to remove everything that's magnetic and save yourself a lot of time panning. But the fact is that in that little ball of magnetic material, there definitely is gold stuck in there. Magnetic. Ferrous.
Not non-ferrous? Ferrous.
Ferrous.
Ferrous. Bueller.
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 Bueller. Alright, before we went down that little ferrous, non-ferrous rabbit hole, was just getting ready to pan out the bigs. And normally there isn't anything in here, but it is worth checking because sometimes a little piece of gold will stick to these rocks. There's a lot of clay in there, so they'll stick to the rocks. So it's a good idea to go through it. Now Nick did go through and screen through this stuff one more time, so we're pretty confident if there was anything in here we would have pulled it out. But nonetheless, it's worth a couple minutes to pan through this and just double check. So I'm about as far down as I want to go with this, and so I'm just going to take it and pull it back and see what we've got going on. Now if there was any gold in here, it would definitely be up along the top here. And as you can see, there is not. But it's still worth checking. On to the little stuff. Alright, so now comes the tedious process. Here's our concentrates from both runs, right? You combined them?
Yep.
I'm going to take about a spoonful and put it in here. And that's all I'm going to do at a time. And I'm not panning it like I would normally pan something down at the creek. Because...
Down at the what?
Creek. because this is all very concentrated. There's quite a bit of gold in it, and the gold is small, and most of that black sand is pretty similar size to the gold. So I really need to shake this and get all that gold down to the bottom. So I'm pretty confident that all that gold is sitting down at the bottom now. So then I am just going to take a little bit off the top, but I'm really watching to see if I see any gold working its way up. So I'm shaking it. That's making the lighter stuff, because there is still some light sand in there, lighter stuff come to the top. And then I'm just going to really gently take that lighter stuff off. Get that lighter stuff to come to the top, and then really gently take it off, because that's just going to save me time for the next step. The next step is very slow. And there are other ways you can do it, but I am basically just washing back the black sand. I'm going to wash it back, slowly wash back a line of black sand. Right away at the first part, it's all the blonde sand that's coming back. And I'm going to wash that back. I'm watching very carefully for the gold, because I can see there is some gold right there showing, and I don't want that to wash back. And then what I'm doing is I'm taking this second snuffer bottle, making sure I don't mix them up, because that would be not fun. And then I'm actually snuffering up this black sand that's on the back. Can't really see it through that jet dry, but that's really what I'm doing, is I'm just more process of taking out everything that's not gold. Alright, and then we start that process over again. Shake it down, give it a tap. The tapping action helps the gold settle to the front. It brings the heaviest stuff forward, brings the lightest stuff back. And then I'm going to start bringing it back. And for me, in this pan, 80% of the gold, for whatever reason, maybe someone in the comments can let me know why, but for me the gold always settles right here. So that's where I'm mostly looking when I'm washing back. Then I'm going to snuffer off more of this black sand. And the reason I'm doing it this way instead of just panning it out the front is I can see everything really clearly. I can tell what I'm taking out of the pan, versus if I'm panning a little bit faster out the front of the pan, I might miss something. And remember, this was 1 spoonful. And now I see I've got a piece of gold right here. I don't know if you can see that. I've got a piece of gold right there. I'm just going to push that up.
See that corner pretty good.
And then I keep washing back. And I'm watching. If I see any gold come back, just push it back up. And as I go, the farther into this I get, the slower I have to go. So this first part, I can move pretty quick. But I'm going to continue this process of peeling back the black sand and then snuffering it off until I get down to a little more manageable level, and then we'll pick it back up and show you the next step. Well, we just finished that panning process, and what is it, hour later maybe?
4 hours? I don't know.
It feels like 5. But if you just take a look here, you can see I've got a line of black sand at the bottom of the pan, and then that's the clean gold at the top of the pan. And that gold right there isn't from everything. That gold is from about 2 spoonfuls. Just a basic plastic spoon. So I'm just going to take that
Spoon.
snuffer all that gold up. And then all the gold from that trip in this snuffer bottle, so we will take a look at that in 1 second. Alright, so we got a little bit cleaner water here. dump that gold. There we go. Now, if you're wondering what those suds are, that is jet dry. I can't remember if we talked about that in the beginning of the video or not. But
in case we didn't, why are we using jet dry, Paul?
Well, Nick, gold, funnily enough, will float on water.
What?
Even though gold is about 19 times heavier than water, the gold will actually float on the water because of science, I believe.
That's crazy, Paul.
I don't like you. The water has surface tension at the top, and the gold flakes will just kind of hop up on top and float around. But if you put the jet dry in there, that breaks the surface tension, so it makes the gold sink.
Also known as
Science. So you can see that's quite a bit of gold. There's some pretty good pieces in there. Shake it around a little bit. That's a nice one right there.
Yeah, you can see it.
There's a nice one right there too. And that is our gold. That's a nice little pile of gold right there. And that's from 2 trips. It's going to be out of focus because of where
No,
I
you look
touched.
great.
Well, our last step is to take this inside, get it in a frying pan and dry it off, and then weigh it, see how we did.
And make pancakes.
Also pancakes.
Stay
Stay
tuned.
tuned. All right, so we just got that gold dried out in this little frying pan right here. So it's a pretty nice little pile of gold right there. And we're gonna see what it weighs. We just tried to do this, and then the wind tried to steal our gold. Can you see that from where you are? We need better angles.
You're a better angle.
Thanks. Point zero. Let me just make sure I got all of it out of here. 0.04.
So for about 20 hours worth of work times 2 guys, it comes out to about 37 cents per hour.
I don't think it's that much.
Yeah, probably not.
So 0.04 grams of gold right there. Well, that's going to do it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't yet, please consider hitting that subscribe button. It really helps us out a lot. And if you're looking for another way to help support the channel, make sure to check out our YouTube memberships. You can go down below, click that join button. You can see our 2 levels. We've got a walleye club and a crappie club, and we'd love to have you on board. As always, give us a like and leave those comments down below. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Oh!